Why do you support pedophiles? You are evil. Now you might respond to that by saying, no, you support pedophiles. You are evil. And our society has gotten into a massive fascination, or say experiment, with calling people they don't like, particularly big politicians, pedophiles. And they come up with some evidence for this, but this really surrounds the Jeffrey Epstein fascination, where when Epstein was arrested and then died under mysterious circumstances, it really, and of course he was related to all the pedophilia stuff, it really brought pedophilia to the forefront as an evil that everyone can identify. And that's really the thing. That is why our society loves to call each other pedophiles, because people are calling Trump a pedophile, and of course a lot of people on the somewhat far right call a lot of leftists pedophiles, and the leftist leaders and the leftist billionaires. And unfortunately, the whole thing is really kind of dumb, but it's also rather understandable at the same time. It's dumb because with all these cases, there really is not much proof. Like with Trump, I know a lot of leftists like to hang their capes on this, but have you seen what Stormy Daniels looks like? Do you, like, if Trump chose her, like Trump chose to sleep with her, do you think a pedophile would choose to sleep with Stormy Daniels? I think that's kind of all the evidence we need, unless there was something really ironclad, which there isn't. And for the leftist billionaire stuff, there may be a few. It's possible. But without any real evidence of this, I think it's much more an easy moral shortcut that this whole pedophilia thing is about. And basically how it goes is that my political enemy at least supports or is a pedophile. Pedophilia is objectively evil, and we don't need to talk about that. Therefore, objectively evil things are done by objectively evil people. And therefore, they're evil, and I am good, and I am right, because evil is not right. And that is the essence of the debate over the pedophile issue. That by labeling your enemies pedophiles, you are pushing them out of the tent of rational debate, of civility. And you are just saying that they are the enemy and you are not the enemy, and therefore the political points that they're making are not valid. That only your political points are valid and only your politicians are valid because they are not pedophiles and the enemy is a pedophile. And unfortunately, this does not really get our society far at all because, one, there's not really much evidence for it, but two, is that it's a moral short-circuiting where we get to come in and pretend that there is no valid argument against our argument. And when people are arguing against it, it must be evil. And by calling people pedophiles, you get to bring in some backing. Because it's not like you're going to run into anyone who's going to say, oh, well, that person is a pedophile, but it's not that bad. Because then you can just label them a pedophile too. Or just say they're defending something horribly evil and they are no longer welcome in civil discourse. So there's no way out of it once you're in it, but it's an effective tool at destroying debates over things that should be debated. And it's really unfortunate that it's happening because it allows us to engage in a fantasy that further than just the political debate itself, it allows our society to engage in a fantasy that our problems are caused by objective evils, that things in the world would actually be good. This is a bit of a leftist idea, like, to put it succinctly, that the world is actually good, but was ruined by evil people doing evil things. And if there weren't evil people doing evil things, then justice would prevail and everything would be great. And this is a real moral short-circuiting because it's simply not true. And it's not true because a lot of the problems that are caused in our society are not ones that are made up by a cabal of people. Like that's really the essence of the argument, that there is this cabal of evil people that is stealing from us, and that's why we can't have a good society and universal health care and all the good things. All the good things. That's really the issue, is that you can have all the good things and you don't need to fight about anything. And there's no real political sides. This is something you hear on Twitter sometimes. There's no real political sides. You see, they are both owned and operated by the masters, by the evil masters of society. And we know they are evil because they like to diddle children. It's like that is what goes through a lot of people's heads, and it allows them to skip over the whole point of, these people disagree with me about something pretty big and fundamental about our lives. We should probably talk about that. Nope, they're pedos. They must be bad. No need to debate. No need to have an argument. No need to even take their existence seriously. Because in the end, it also serves the pedo label. It also serves as an impetus to then condemn people to greater political consequences. That, it's like the equivalent of the old enemy of the state idea, where that used to be a valid classification, but now that people aren't particularly fascist or statist, it doesn't really ring a bell. But that once you label people pedophiles or pedophile supporters, not even prisoners in prison spare pedophiles their wrath. That pedophiles don't survive prison. It's kind of a known meme at this point. And by labeling them that, you then get to, do much worse things to them and not feel bad about it. Because morality itself does not say that you should feel bad about doing bad things to bad people. And in this case, it allows you to just do that. And then everyone feels good because we're delivering justice to the objectively evil, instead of accounting for the true issues in our society that get us where we are. Like, I'm sorry to say, but the reason some of your jobs are going away, the reason civility is falling apart, the reason government is filled with incompetent idiots, is not that there is just an elite ring of pedophiles. That is not what's going on. I'm sorry to say, but there's an old calculus about cabals, about secret groups, where the bigger the thing they're trying to do, the harder it is to cover up. Like, if there was this secret group that was actually controlling all of the world's politics and all of the decisions and making all these evils happen, that it would be likely to be leaked, that couldn't really be kept in the bottle. And the fact that there isn't some ironclad evidence of this, which could easily be leaked by anyone involved, is to say that it's extremely unlikely that there is this control of all evil, that all this evil in our society is simply made by these bad people. And the reason this is really important is because if you don't acknowledge that what you do and what your neighbors do can cause the bad things in your society, and anyone can say they mean well forever, but I guess the deeper point is that good intentions don't create good outcomes. And everyone can think they have good intentions, but it still doesn't create the good outcome. And that's really the key, is that people like to do a little moral calculus, because what happens a lot of times is that people do things that they think will lead to a good outcome, or at least they feel it on some gut level. And when it doesn't, then you run into a moral calculus where you would kind of have to admit that either your intentions don't mean anything to the outcomes of the things you're doing, or that you just have bad intentions. Neither of those are very comfortable to admit. So it's much easier to say that our decisions are being undermined, that we all agree about everything, and, we just have slight disagreements, but really, we're all being controlled by the pedophiles. Jews is often the one that's smuggled in as well there. But I think the pedophile one is more important here because there's many different supposed rings and things going on of that sense. Rings of like rings as in groups of cabal people, like secret groups controlling society. And the real issue in our society, which I have mentioned before, is that moral failure and civilizational failure starts in the home. It starts in the home with parents to children. It starts in the community with how you treat the things around you and the people around you. Like I go to a gym. I go to a pretty nice gym. And when I'm there, there are people who just leave things strewn out all over the place. Like you could just put the mat away. You know, they have those yoga mats and they do exercises on them. Or they have other exercise balls and stuff and weights. And all of those very often are just left all over the floor. Like, really? Why would you do that? Just put away the stuff that you took out. But those are little moral failures. Those are a calculus of, oh, well, you know, I'm paying to be here, or I'm a part of the community. I don't have a responsibility to do these little things, and that it doesn't really matter. But I'm here to tell you that it does. That these little uncivil actions create the impetus to do more uncivil actions. It makes those around you less civil, because it's the old broken windows theory. I think it was pioneered in New York. It's about fighting crime in cities, and the idea is that in neighborhoods that have broken windows, crime will go up. That more windows being broken means more crime. And the idea is that, like, you know, when the civil instruments are not in place, it both doesn't inhibit crime and it increases it. And it's the same thing here. When you see other people around you being totally careless with their impression that they give on you and how they treat you and the society around them, you are less likely to be careful towards them. It's like, oh, they left their mat out. Like I've even come into this myself, because another thing is there are weight racks, and there are multiple different thicknesses of the circular weights. And the circular weights are what you put on the bench press bar and bars. Just no need to go into too much specifics there. And it's really convenient, and it starts this way in the morning when all the different sizes of weights are each on their own rack. And then people come in, they use the bench press, they use the other bars, and then they just throw the weights onto any rack that they feel like. And they throw it onto these racks, and there's no organization anymore. There's no sense of civility, because you're completely careless. You couldn't walk 2 feet and put it on the other rack. No, they couldn't. They couldn't be bothered. And that is really the downfall of civility. That is the downfall of the good outcomes in society. That people couldn't be bothered. People couldn't be bothered to lower housing prices. People couldn't be bothered to increase speed limits on slow roads. People couldn't be bothered to, well, I could keep going on examples there. But essentially, most political inconveniences are just couldn't be bothered. It's, you know, I have this thing that I kind of want, and I don't really care how it affects other people around me. And you can think that way. It's not a crime to think that way. But I'm telling you, it encourages other people to think that way too. And if everyone thinks that way, then you no longer have a civilization. You no longer have a society. You just have a bunch of people pillaging each other. It's like Tortuga in Pirates of the Caribbean. Everyone's just there to steal from each other. And so these moral failures in society, the reason our society is falling apart is because people are unwilling to do the important things that would help their society continue and get stronger and feel civil. And that is largely responsible for all these bad things that happen. Like when it comes to even the pedophilia claims, like in most of the stories of pedophilia, it was oftentimes their family, friends, schools, and even churches. And when it happens, one of the most common tropes in them is that the kid said something to their parents, the kid said something to guidance counselors and all these different people, and everyone was just like, nah, must be lying, don't care. not to be bothered. And a lot of the cases come out later because no one could be bothered. And it actually, just to relate it to one more thing, this was what shocked a lot of people about the whole Me Too movement, which was the sexual predators in Hollywood were essentially taking advantage of low-grade actresses and getting them to have sex with them in order to get parts in movies. And the funny thing about it, which it wasn't talked about a lot at the time, this was like 6 years ago, 2019-ish, I think that's when it was really in its heyday. And is that what kept being said was everyone knew about this in Hollywood. This was an open secret, but then finally someone decided to start caring about it and start making a difference in it and start mentioning it. And then everyone started mentioning it. But before then, it was taboo to mention. It was something we all knew, but just, didn't talk about. And that's really it. It's that casual moral failure. That is what makes bad laws in our society. That's what leaves problems to fester. And when those problems fester, they create much more destruction in our society and much less civility. And that leads to us, instead of acknowledging that things are going wrong and there are real solutions, instead, to cover up those moral failures, what a lot of people will say is, oh, there's a secret cabal controlling us from above, and that is the reason for all these bad things, and I am totally innocent of any wrongdoing. And that's what they'll do. And they might not say it out loud, but that is usually the conclusion for anyone in our society. Like, go ask someone in our society, did you vote wrong? What about the consequences of the policy you voted for? Do you take any accountability? Huh? What? There's no consequences. I voted well. The politicians just didn't do what I wanted them to do. And the worst part is that you'll get to the end of it, and this gets back to the intentions point, is that they'll say, well, I meant well. Nobody cares. Nobody cares in the end because things are going wrong. So I think, as we've seen, the pedophile point is really just a denial of basic realities of our society. But I want to get to the last denial of basic realities, and that is that bad things happen. And I know that sounds like a very basic point, but bad things happen in our society, not just in our society, in our whole, like, in the world itself. And when those bad things happen, people take a few different options. One, they blame themselves for the bad choices that were made to get them there. Or two, much more likely, they blame things that are outside of their control. Religion, God did this to me. And unfortunately, this doesn't take a history scholar to look back towards, but bad things happen in the world. The world is pervaded by bad things. Lightning strikes, animals eat, crops go bad. Like, the history of human life in the world is full of natural and unnatural tragedies. And that really is the heart of this point, is that the pedophile narrative is a way for us to maintain our new fantasy of how the world works, that everything is actually just okay, and there's no inherent bad things in the world, that we can maintain this luxury belief that the West and that the civilized world, this is how it always is. And when it's not like that, there must be something going wrong. And to a degree, there is something going wrong, as we discussed, which is people being uncivil. But the other thing going wrong that can often be as hard or harder to accept than the former point is that things will go wrong in the world. And there is no free lunch. Shoes and made products don't grow on trees, and things actually have to be maintained. Things actually have to be looked after. And not just that, but they have to be accounted for, because you simply can't guard your reality against all bad things. And it's time to stop blaming the pedophiles to the extent that they even exist. It's time to stop blaming them for things that are our fault and things that are not our fault but are our responsibility. If you like this video, please comment, like, subscribe. One day I'll say that in order. And anyway, see you next time.